Hello and welcome to Arrow's What Is series. My name is Steve Horobin and I manage the pre-sales team within Arrow's modern data center practice. Today we're going to be asking, what is a rack? Now this might sound like something that is pretty obvious, but let me take you through this and we'll see if we can explain in a bit more detail exactly what's involved in a rack for a data center. So if we scribble away and have a look at a rack, and we'll try and put some pretty pictures together. Okay, so we start to look at a rack. This is what's used inside a data center to store all sorts of types of technology. So this can be storage, server, networking, can be UPSs, can be PDUs. There's lots of different types of technology that can be placed inside a rack. And the good thing about this is there is a standard rack. So as long as all of the vendors for all of the products adhere to this standard, then we know it'll fit into a rack. So if you look at the rack at the front, there's a load of screws or bolt holes down the side of the rack. And then you have lots of space in the rack where you can actually put all of your equipment. So if we have a look in more detail now at the rack itself, the actual shelving, and we'll try and show it like this. So we'll take a subsection of the center of the rack across there. So again, as we mentioned, inside this we have a number of holes where we can bolt the technology into. What's that, 7 we've got down there? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, when we put a device into a rack, we'll slide it in, and there will be some screws that will fit in the rack that the server or the storage will actually bolt into. So if we look at a device in place, that's where it's going to fit. Okay, now the strange thing is it'll only use the top and the bottom holes on each side, so the center one is not used. So the screws will go in the front of the system, they will hold it in place, and now we have secured that device inside the rack. Now just to give you some ideas on measurements, this measurement from the extents of the device, that's 19 inches. And again, as I mentioned, we seem to flip between metric and imperial in the IT world. But 19 inches across. So any products that you want to put into the rack, just obviously make sure it's a 19-inch standard product, which 100% of products today will be. That will not be a problem. Okay, so then you have a look at the rack itself, and we'll see exactly how the rack fits into a computer room. So again, if we draw our rack, what this is going to do is the rack is going to sit on a tile generally. So again, we'll come back and discuss that in a second. So you'll have a tile in the computer room, and you'll have your rack with a nice grilled door on the front and some sort of keyed access. But the tile at the bottom will then be a 600mm square tile. And this is where I say again, we keep flicking between metric and imperial. Now, a 600mm tile and a standard 600mm rack means the rack fits perfectly on the width of the tile. So it makes it very straightforward when we're putting multiple racks into a data center that we know where the tile breaks are going to be, and the racking breaks will be very, very similar to that. Exactly the same, in fact. So that's the size of the tiles. If we have a look at the depth of a rack, so when we put the rack into a computer room and we have the depth, obviously that's key as well. So if we look at the depth, it's probably 1000mm is a very common depth, 1000mm being a meter. So as you can see, that's gone just over a tile. So we have 600mm, 600mm, 1000, and then obviously we'll go back to 1200mm where the next tile break will be. There are deeper racks. You can get 1200mm deep racks, so that obviously cover completely 2 tiles. But again, the depth of the rack isn't too important. Most data center managers like to have the racking from the same company because it looks all neat and tidy, and all the racks are the same width, same depth, same color. But you can get various depth racks as well for different types of technology. Now also, when we're looking at the racking, I think we mentioned this before, the devices that can go into a rack can be 1U. In this instance here, this is 1U. So it's, I think it's 1.75 inches, so 1.75 inches. And I think from memory it's 44.45 mil. Now, a standard rack is likely to be 42 units. I'll put 42. Okay, so the U is what they term a rack unit. The majority of the racks on the market are 42U. So that means they will have 42 spaces able to take 1 rack unit's worth of technology. Now, if we spin the rack around and we have a look at the rear of the rack, I mean, you never thought there was so much that could be explained about a rack. But if we have a look in the rear of the rack, obviously we'll see all the rear of the technology that we put into the rack. But what we also have now is the capability to install power distribution units. So we will have a tall PDU that will sit in the side of the rack. And this is where we will connect the power to for the devices inside the rack. So at the bottom of the PDU, there will be a power cable that will connect to the rack. And then as we go up, there will be various power sockets available at predetermined points to power our technology. So we'll just put a few of those on. Now, if we dropped a device into our rack, and we'll put a nice 2U server in there, this will have a power supply on the left, a power supply on the right, and what we can do again is we can just connect the power supplies together to the sockets already provided by the power distribution units in the back of the rack. So it makes it very, very straightforward to provide short power cables. We're not having power cables trailing all over the floor, making it a bit of a mess. So we keep the power cables as short as possible, makes it neat and tidy, makes it easier to cable, easier to see what you're doing when you go around the back of the rack. And obviously lots of space inside there for other products and devices that you can install. The way that cables come out of the rack is also interesting. I think so. You have a rack that may be sitting on a raised floor, so you could have some legs underneath the raised floor. Now what you can do at the bottom of the rack is you can have a cutout in a floor tile and a cutout in the rack, and all the cables that you have connected to technology in your rack will come out that bottom floor tile out of the bottom of the rack. So that's normally the way you do it on a raised floor. There are some companies that don't have a raised floor, and the rack actually sits straight on the concrete slab of the data center itself. So there is no way to go down. So what you do is you go up. So you put in some cable trays in the upper part of the computer room, and then when the cables come out to the top of the rack, they sit inside the tray and then move across to other racks or other technology elsewhere in the computer room. So, I hope that's given you a little bit of an understanding what's more associated with a rack. There is more that you can think of. So again, this is What is a Rack? This is one of Arrow's What is series videos, and I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much.